Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Jessica Jones, aka the Cryptid Huntress, has once again found her way into the darkness of the Fox Den for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yeah, I have been sleeping in my casket for so long, I really do need some nutrients. Absolutely delicious. I do appreciate you, Miss Jones, bringing me some very good food to feast on. Now that I am fully revamped, recharged, and ready to rumble, it is once again time for the Cryptid Huntress and LordeStarfox to take a walk into the madness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
Yeah, so then this Hulu documentary with this guy, like I was saying, is a tweaker. He's definitely should be in a padded room. He blames Sasquatch for taking this woman, or I should say girl, he was hanging out with. Do we have historical records of that occurring? Yes, we definitely do. Do Sasquatch take people? Sure as heck seems like it. Yet the dude that's telling you this is straight up out of his mind. People that investigated this situation believe he was guilty. Two sides to that. Could it have been pinned on him? Sure. Do I think it was personally? No, I think the dude was a Looney Tune. But there was another case, like I was saying, of this guy that was wearing like a wolf mask and had these claws that were metal, would attack people. Again, catch-22, like Brian Barber was saying. Sure, you might be installing fear in people, but now you're also installing adrenaline and things like that. Yeah, again, though, yeah, what are you going to say when the neighbors are like, hey, an 8-foot wolf thing ran out of the front door of this house? Yeah, you can't really describe that now. And also, if you look at the costumes this day and age, they look sick. I mean, look at Dog Soldiers back in 2002. All right, keep in mind, if that was published in 2002, was probably being made around 1998. They had dancers and athletes that were wearing dog soldier costumes on stilts. They had the long, lanky arms, the huge mane, giant wolf head. It looked like the best werewolves of all time. Imagine seeing that in the forest or like coming into your house, per se. Also, I've recently seen with Nat Geo where they've been able to create robotics that mimic the boa constrictor to a T, so that when it approaches it and it's got the camera on it, the snake acts how it would act towards another snake. What if they were able to make some sort of cyborg, per se, which they already have them, but they just dressed it up like some crazy looking Dogman. Look at Jurassic Park and things. All right, yes, movies, you're only seeing certain scenes for a little bit of points in time. You're not actually watching Rexy, that T-Rex. It just completely interact out in public. I mean, it's cut, it's CGI, etc. But a lot of people don't realize those animatronics don't exist anymore, because after like 20 years or so, the foam outlined skin just disintegrated. All that was left were these mechanical skeletons of these dinosaurs. If Hollywood was able to do that with Jurassic Park, like you said, it's definitely not very far-fetched to think that somebody else with deep enough pockets couldn't be doing something like that as well. Pretty creepy to think that, instead of having maybe a machine like a tank or something coming at you, being controlled by somebody, now you have them on like a little controller having this massive beast come at you. That's pretty creepy.
Well, and you can also factor in Project Bluebeam as well, in the holograms and the holographic technology that they have today, and so that is unmatched. There's no telling what all they've done with that, and yes, it's not just UFOs and aliens. I'm sure they have done things with werewolves and dogmen as far as holograms go as well, and so we just have there's just a huge array of different ways that we can be deceived, and being part of a big gigantic psyop. And so, some people think that we live in a simulation, okay? and when you do start factoring in things like the robots and the holograms and things like that, it's like, well, do we live in a Truman Show? I mean, what's real and what's not? Or not even all humans are real at this point, okay? So we've got a lot to contend with, and a lot on our plates, and so we're living in a very interesting time right now, where it's hard to distinguish real from fake and all that kind of stuff. And we have to really go with our guts and go with our intuition as far as everything goes. That's in our everyday lives. But yeah, I mean, if people don't think that, and special agencies aren't utilizing these tactics against people, okay, not only in the United States but all over the world, you're gonna be wrong, okay? You're gonna be wrong if you don't think that, because I mean, there are declassified documents going back to 1950 proving they were doing that in the Philippines, and everything is weaponized at this point, and there's no limit as to how far they will go to achieve their objectives.
Great stuff right there. Preach, my friend. Makes me think of Sasquatch, not Sasquatch. Sax as in saxophone. Right. He's the man. That guy has the most realistic Sasquatch outfit I've ever seen. Sure, when you hear him talk and he's playing his instrument and you have enough time to sit there and watch through a whole music video, you can understand it's a man in a suit, but it looks epic. And if you were just to see that walk across a field or something, that would look pretty dang real. Again, I try to be logical. Yet if I woke up to my door, my bedroom being smashed in, something looking like the way the Howling did, or Dog Soldiers was standing in my room, logically you'd like to think those things don't exist. Yet until I'm able to pull the mask off, what the heck is that thing,
Yes, that's where they would probably get some freedom fries if they came into my house, if you know what I mean. Something like that came through my door. They better hope they're a hologram. Okay.
You know what that reminds me of, because I'm such a nerd, been jamming out with the good old True Blood. There's a scene in that where this is why vampires are so awesome. A bunch of witches show up in their little cauldron and they're trying to cast these ancient spells on the vampires. Some of the vampires have brought humans as bodyguards because the humans are unaffected by this. Either way, one of the vampires does the sick shadow step. You know how like Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, yeah, another nerd reference, does the shadow kick. You know how it shows like multiple images because he's so quick. Well, one of the vampires, Eric, does that, and he just rips out this witch's heart, and all you see is her head snap and then blood go, and he's just sitting there with his fangs out, holding her heart in the piece of the spine he just ripped out. I was like,
fatality.
Right? But now imagine if, like you were saying, that was occurring. I personally think vampires are super cool, hence my gimmick. Yet I do know there are individuals out there that claim they are vampires and live this lifestyle. When I think of a vampire, what I just spoke to you is what a vampire is. These super crazy fast speeds and power and such, and fully just consuming blood, which is impossible for our digestive system. We can dive into that more at another point in time, which is why vampire bats are the only known species that do that. They have a very adapted digestive system that can handle the metal and metallic aspects that are inside of blood. Yet, do I think what I just spoke to you about, true blood vampires, exist? I do not personally. Sure, I guess to an extent it would be cool, but it'd also be straight up terrifying if something with that capability was just floating around,
Hollywood, they're a little more sparkly and glittery in Hollywood. You know what I mean? That's like the main complaint that I get about any kind of show. Lost Boys with the vampires was pretty good. That wasn't so sparkly and glittery, but
dark, yep.
But Twilight and all that, they got a little glittery on us. So
yeah,
it's just Hollywood,
right? Yeah. No, it's super interesting, and I'm glad you mentioned the whole thing about the Dogman too. See, the thing that's great with Bigfoot is there's quality pictures, so much quality evidence, and we have some very interesting tracks and things, which are great. But when it comes to the actual photos, supposedly, they all, even I'm like, wow, this is interesting. When it goes into the experts and our science team, they over and over again say it's a black bear or a large cat of some sort. It's getting me to think that, why is it Sasquatches on camera? They have the videos that can't be debunked that are quality, the Freeman, and whether people want to buy into the Patterson one, there's some others. Even Todd Standham, before he started hoaxing, has that one where it's impossible for somebody to have been able to jump side to side going up that hill where there was these ledges in between the trees. You have this great stuff. But then when it comes to Dogman, all these images are either looking like they were taken off a potato, where the pixelation is so awful that, what are we in 1960? Or it's just, what everyone seems to say is a bear. Why do you think that is, if we've been able to catch Sasquatch, right, and really be able to get on the right path of verifying this? What's missing here with the Dogman? Because the fact that we've had so much time to get an image of this, and every time these images can't stand up to the proper analysis, it makes it questionable, I guess, as to what people truly saw. I mean, if they thought it was, and then they take the picture of it, and then we submit it to our science team, who does find this topic interesting, and other scientists, and they're like, no, it's a black bear. Then they run it through their AI and compare other images, and then they break it down, and you're like, well, I guess that really does look like a black bear. What's missing here, do you think?
Yeah, well, a lot of the pictures, and listen, I know people personally who claim to have been at some point contracted to go out and eliminate rogue dogmen. Okay, and I'll send them pictures. These people that I know, okay, there's one or two. I'll send them pictures to run things by them to say, well, this is the latest Dogman picture. What do you think? What is your analysis of it? And a lot of times they say, and I've already have it in the back of my head. I'm like, this looks like a bear to me, but I don't know. It's either AI or a bear. And they say, oh, that's a bear. And I don't tell them that, but then I get the response, and I go, oh no, that's definitely a bear. These are long time woodsmen and stuff, okay, like hunters, and they can tell. And there's just a whole lot of misidentification that goes on, and I got to tell you, from a research standpoint, from being a boots on the ground researcher and doing Dogman investigations, I personally, on the couple of Dogman investigations that I've been on, we ended up not having any Dogman activity. Ended up being Bigfoot. Okay, and so I think that it probably was Bigfoot from the very get-go that those people experienced, but there's also reports of Dogmen, okay, out there. So I don't know. We have tons of evidence and pictures and videos of Bigfoot, but we just haven't had a whole lot of Dogmen. There's a couple of credible videos that I've seen of Dogmen. One was allegedly taken by. Okay, it was like something that was supposed to have been leaked, and it definitely looked like a real Dogman running around. And I believe the people who have given me eyewitness testimony. I have them on my shows every week, just about. I have different people on that have seen them. I believe them. I personally have not seen one. I think that I think I've been surrounded by them before, but I don't know. It could have been Bigfoot because I didn't actually see them. Okay, but just from my standpoint, from being a boots on the ground field researcher and investigator, anytime that I've gone out to investigate a Dogman sighting, we have been, I don't want to say accosted or confronted, but we have had Bigfoots in the environment. So I think it might have been Bigfoot. So that's just my experience, though. Okay, that's just me.
See, and then that just brings so much more credence to kind of like what I was saying is I would find it hard to believe that a Dogman would be smarter than a Sasquatch. And if it was, not by much more, why is it if people report, like I said, the Sasquatch are aware of the cameras and things, yet they still have been caught on camera? We really should be able to get a Dogman on camera. I mean, Sasquatch seemingly are super smart. They go out of their way not to leave tracks. I mean, you have the Skohemish, I believe, where it was laying down purposely to lean over to grab the fruit so it didn't leave a track. I mean, Nuxium, our master tracker, has seen just one print. Then he realized it had come down from the tree, put his 1 foot down to grab what it wanted to, and that was why he only found the one print. Yeah, they're smart. Okay.
Yeah, it is. And, and here's the thing. I mean, we haven't come across a whole lot of what we think is Dogman evidence with my team either. There's been a couple of strange prints.
Was saying, yeah, I was talking to him about that same thing.
Yeah, not a whole lot of Dogman evidence, but we did, like when I was out with Drewski, we were out in Alabama at that Dogman investigation at that national forest, and we got surrounded by something that one night, and then the next morning we had Bigfoot prints. We had some indentations in the ground around our base camp. And, toe prints and things like that definitely came from a Bigfoot. 100% came from a Bigfoot. And so we were definitely, and this was the same area where a couple of the guys on our team, Brian and his dad, had been, what they thought were Dogmen had surrounded them at that same location a couple of weeks before. But not to say there's not Dogmen and Bigfoots. I had my buddy Greg House came on the show about 3 weeks ago, and he lives around this area where we were. And he told me, he said, there's a lot of Bigfoot reports that he gets up there. He's seen Bigfoot up there. He has Bigfoots that live on his property up there in that same area within, a 10, 20 mile radius. I think it's like a 10-mile radius from where I was. And he said that there have been reports of Dogmen there with blue eyes. Okay. In the middle of the night.
Female reports, yeah.
Glowing eyes out there, right where we were actually. So, yeah.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I do think there's something going on. I'm a huge advocate of the cynocephaly, and this is why I cover this topic, right?
Yeah, I'm the same, but we're still out there. It doesn't stop me from going to investigate and trying to find them. Maybe they're just more stealthy than Bigfoots. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Could just be that.
Very intriguing. Great acute observation right there. Before I start reading some of these gnarly things from Maine, because you are a legendarily busy individual, we can't hold you here all night, even though I really would love to keep you in the fox den forever, but friends don't do that to friends, right?
Oh my gosh. No, it has been a long week, but I'm here. I'm having fun. Definitely. So yeah, I can't wait to hear about this werewolf report that you've got. That we're going to talk about.
These are interesting for sure. Yet the question I did have for you first is, what do you think, or what is your opinion or thoughts, I guess, on the paranormal aspects that you think are existing? Does Hollywood do a remotely good job, like when we were just talking about the vampires, or do you think they're adding potentially more glam, no pun intended, obviously because it's entertainment value, meaning like making the werewolf look more crazy, or the witch more deranged, or the vampire super fast, or the zombie smarter than it is, etc.? Or do you feel like that's a pretty decent depiction of what people are seeing or what you potentially believe in?
Well, when it comes to a cinematic standpoint, I'm starting to learn that the real vampires look like you and I. Okay, and I know you're an actual vampire. Okay, but no, there's a lot of people. I mean, this is wild. I know I don't even know if I should bring this up, but it seems as though a lot of even actors and actresses in Hollywood are actual vampires. Okay, and they look like normal humans, but the way they portray them in movies, I think it's. I mean, saying that first and saying, real vampires look just like you and I, like everyday humans, it's hard to say, okay, because there's that theatrical type of a vampire that's in our fairy tales and our books,
Yes.
And in the movies, but really, the real vampires just look like everyday humans, okay. But yeah, as far as like werewolves and things go in the movies, I think that they're depicted pretty well. It just depends on what movie it is. Okay,
That's so scary.
It totally depends on what movie it is. I mean, some people say, if you watch that Bill Schnoebelen fella who was on, he does interviews now, but he's best known for doing a lecture at the Prophecy Club, and you can find that on YouTube. It's Bill Schnoebelen. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And he is a rabbi today, I think, and he used to be part of the Church of Satan, and he was a high up member of the Church of Satan. And he talked about in that Prophecy Club lecture about how he hit a rank so high in the Brotherhood of Satan that he was given the chance to either turn into a vampire or a werewolf. And it's the same in some, I'm going to say several of these secret societies. Once you hit a certain level, you can learn how to shapeshift and things like that. Wow. And he said that he chose to be a vampire. There was a very sexual nature about it. Just a really interesting thing. Okay, it's an interesting lecture to listen to. But in that lecture, he talks about how the people who turned into werewolves, he said that he would actually go to investigations, or if someone, like one of their brothers, I guess, had turned into a werewolf and was attacking his wife. Okay, he talks about how he went to go interview this woman at her home, and she said that she had woken up one night and her husband had, I guess, taken her. It was like carrying her into like the basement of the house. I think it was a basement. And she said that she got in there and she woke up and he laid her down on a table and he turned into a werewolf right before her eyes. And there was a whole room full of people there, and it was just wild. And I guess they came to the house. He was talking about how the man was there at the house and he ended up turning into a werewolf in front of everybody. It was just really wild. But he also was talking about how the movie The Howling, he was saying, now I've had people say there's no way this is true, but he said during that lecture that there's a scene in The Howling where it's a transformation scene where the guy is actually transforming into a werewolf. And that was an actual transformation. It was real, is what he said. Now there are people that say there's no way, but that's what he said. He said that there were rumors going around that was a real transformation of a human turning into a werewolf in that movie.
So creepy. Yeah, I've heard that before as well. And you definitely made some great observations again right there. I think not just because I like the show and it helps me with my vampire swag, True Blood does a pretty good job in showing, I mean, the vampires look normal, like you said, you and I, but you can kind of tell by their attitudes and when they do decide to show their fangs or their abilities, but they have changelings in there and actually skinwalkers and all kinds of really messed up like beings and such. Pretty cool stuff. That's why I just asked you, because no matter what, visually you try to get an understanding as to what it is that we're processing, or at least I do, being an artist. I always try to get a consensus in my mind, even if that velociraptor doesn't necessarily look like how you see it on TV. It gives you an understanding of how to then rearrange how it should properly look, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I think they do a pretty good job of portraying, getting the point across as to what these creatures are out there. So
yeah, right there. Well, I do have some excellent stuff as we start to tie this up for you that dives into my area. And I will say Monster Quest, Doug Highcheck, kudos. I mean, huge fan of that show. Doug's one of my buddies. I don't think it was directly their fault, meaning when they came up here, you know how TV shows are. So what? It was a 45-minute episode. They were only up here for, I don't even think that long. You don't have that much time to speak to everybody and gather great information. So that is what got me intrigued about this, to kind of do my own a little bit of research. But obviously Monster Quest is the OG, because growing up I was like, yo, what the heck, man? We're talking about stuff in my good old area. Turner, that's not that far away. We're going to start with 2005, Wales. And I'm not going to say Maine every time on these, because we're up in Maine. It's the middle of the night, and Leo Michaud is suddenly awoken to his female Doberman Pinscher guard dog going absolutely ballistic outside. Quickly grabbing his flashlight, Michaud ventures outside to inspect the problem. As he is looking around, he doesn't find what is causing his dog to flip out. Deciding it was nothing, he heads back inside. As Leo is falling back asleep, very confident his young, healthy 65-pound Doberman will be just fine, he dozes off. Suddenly, just before dawn, he is jolted up to the sound of his dog screaming in horrible pain and agony. Scrambling around to gather his flashlight and run outside over to the doghouse, he finds her covered in blood, all cut from large scratch marks, as she is curled up in the corner of her doghouse. Upon further investigation, he found she was barely breathing and had to take an emergency trip to the local vet, where sadly she had to be put down. 3 days later, around 2:30 a.m., Leo is driving down the isolated road to his house when he sees what he says looked like a werewolf from The Howling trying to look under his door and messing around with the door handle. After seeing the headlights to the car, the creature supposedly turned and leapt off the porch towards Michaud's car before quickly proceeding to an area off in the brush. The following day, Michaud searched all around his property until he found these weird holes covered in brush and branches that looked like a den. Feeling unsafe for his children and himself, Leo spent the majority of the day plugging up and destroying this strange den and brush area. What do you think about that one?
Ooh, that's horrible. That's really sad, that poor dog got attacked by something. And yeah, I don't know, finding an area that's like a hole in the ground with brush over it. Ooh, that's never a good sign. Yeah, I probably would have definitely gotten my crew together. I wouldn't have done anything by myself at that point. I would have gotten some people out there, and we would have gone and probably try to destroy that little hut. Okay. Because by gosh, they unalived the dog. Okay. Like, and it was trying to get in their house with turning the doorknob. That's a hell no. Yeah, no. Nope.
Insane enough to just get on his riding mower to cover up this hole. He just was cutting it all down and just plugging it all up. I was like, yo, dude, that's well, I mean, one way to do it. I don't know if that's the way I would have, but
I'd call in a concrete company and we'd come and pour concrete in that thing. Okay.
or as Drew would say, just
saying.
stick a couple grenades down there. Right?
We'd stick some flashbangs and some grenades. Yes, it just depends. Yes, I would definitely call him over if that was my property. And Drewski and I would take care of that. We would.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what the heck? And this gentleman
burn it. I'm just kidding. That's horrible.
He seems pretty reasonable. I would like to think he's still kicking around. I have not spoke to him in quite a long time. Yet, one side perspective, though, it is just Leo saying this. What happened to his dog? Something did that to his Doberman. I mean, yes, we do have black bears up here, which would be capable of that. As much as people don't want to think a Fisher could be capable of that, go online and look at some of the fishers that have been caught up in New England. Holy crap, they're massive, and fishers are insane. A fisher could cause a lot of damage to a dog as well. We have those up here.
What's
Yeah,
a
I guess.
fisher?
Oh my goodness. It is a gigantic looking weasel badger like thing that is absolutely insane. Do you have your phone by you right now?
I do. I'll look it up.
Hold on, I will send you a couple ones real quick as I'm telling you this. Yeah, they could definitely cause some damage when attacking an animal if they wanted to. Keep in mind, like the one I'm going to send you right here is a pretty large one, but they get larger. Check this guy out right here. Look at this thing.
Looks like a badger. It looks like a bear.
Yes.
It makes between a bear and a badger.
And a badger. They are insane. The one that guy's holding right there that I just sent you is, I don't know, I'm not holding it right there. That's pretty large. That thing could do a crap ton of damage to a 65-pound Doberman. I'm not saying it was a Fisher cat that did that, but that would do some damage. Their claws are insane. Their teeth.
Wow.
Yes. We have those up here too.
It looks like a mix between a badger, a ferret, and a bear.
Yes, there we go. Exactly. Perfect description, like weasel or something.
Yeah, that's weird.
Hopefully you never do. They make insane noises. They take people's pets all the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're cute though. They look like a violent teddy bear. That's long. A long violent teddy bear. Listen, that would be my cool. Spirit. The honey badger is my spirit animal. Okay, so that has been a nickname before. I used to be called the honey badger. Okay.
Yeah, so. Those are gnarly too. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think a fisher's that gnarly, but a fisher's nothing to mess with. So besides that, though, again, the state of Maine doesn't acknowledge that we have mountain lions up here. I have seen a juvenile mountain lion get hit personally when I was with my stepdad. They've been caught on trail cams up here as well. Mountain lions are here. They were here before, and when you look up the last time they were supposedly documented, isn't that long ago. So sure, they're probably in sparser numbers, but they also travel around. I mean, a little while ago, they had a male mountain lion that came all the way from the Midwest that they documented on trail cams coming all across until, unfortunately, it was hit, I believe, somewhere in Pennsylvania on the highway. But they tracked it all the way from the Midwest. There are mountain lions up in Canada and such. So again, let's say we have black bears, fishers, and mountain lions. Could all of those do that to a 65-pound Doberman? Yes, but again, would they want to is the real question, because we're talking about a predator here. Those are all solo predators. Why didn't they come back and get it? A bear wouldn't just do that unless that dog attacked the bear, which I don't think a dog would just go out of its way to run after a black bear like that, personally. Same thing with a cougar. I've seen cougars and cats. I mean, I've seen leopards, seen them grab Rottweilers and all kinds of huge dogs. We're talking about a mountain lion here. I don't know if that would have went after this Doberman either. And then he claims, like you said, he sees something where it looks like it was from the howling. I don't know. It's a pretty bizarre case. There isn't really anyone else to talk to. The vet verified, the dog had to be put down. It had these wounds. But how can you really verify, I guess, totally what did the scratches on the, this ripped up or eviscerated dog? And no one else saw it besides Leo. But yeah, pretty bizarre.
Well, like they say, nature is metal. Okay, there's like some kind of Instagram page or YouTube channel. It's like nature is metal, and there's no telling what happened to that poor dog. There's really not. I mean, we could speculate that it was a dogman or a werewolf, but it could have been anything, quite honestly. And especially if they live out in the country, if there's a lot of bears and these little, bear, badger, ferret running around. Whatever.
Psychos, right?
Yeah, it literally could have been anything. And bless the little dog's heart. I feel bad for it. That's terrible, but yeah.
Right around this time, you had some other people that claim they saw some sort of mutant-looking canine running around. The description is different from what Leo saw, though. They said this looked like some sort of mutant canine, and then a feral dog, or a dog that had been abandoned at one point in time. It was hit on the side of the road. The news center here claimed this was the strange canine people were seeing. It didn't look like a healthy canine, but it just kind of looked like a dog. It definitely was not what these people were seeing. So now we have August 12th, 2006. We're up in Turner, which is pretty close to where Leo, which we just talked about, had his instance. This is a pretty messed up one here, too. Locals begin reporting their pets and livestock are beginning to go missing. The local police have been notified, but are seemingly very quiet about the situation. It's afternoon. Michelle O'Donnell is sitting at the kitchen table with her dog looking outside the window when suddenly her dog begins to whimper. Running outside, Michelle sees a mysterious canine on a bank about 15 to 20 yards away. O'Donnell claims to have seen an enormous black, shaggy-looking wild dog with large teeth that didn't look like any wolf, coyote, or wild canine she had ever seen. Shortly after the animal had locked eyes with her, it decided to bolt off towards the back of the house, startling Michelle's husband, who was doing yard work in the back of the house in the process. As this creature vanished into the forest, Michelle and her husband were very unsure as to what they had just witnessed, yet their dog had already bolted inside, and the couple decided maybe they should return as well. I personally had a chance to speak to a few of these people up here in Turner and the surrounding area where this all occurred back in 2006. It's pretty interesting for sure. And a lot of people up here started calling it the Beast of Turner. The local PD ended up closing the case when they claimed this feral dog was hit and unalived on the side of the road.
Well, that was convenient for them just
Right?
to find a random dog and say, well, that was it. Yeah, very convenient. Well, that's interesting. When they saw this dog, did it walk on two legs or anything, or just look like an out of place shaggy dog with big teeth?
The couple that we just read their encounter said it did not go bipedal, but it did look very large and different from anything that they had ever seen. And we do get that reports of it being quadrupedal and bipedal.
Yeah.
Could it have been the same creature that Leo saw and it just wasn't bipedal? Sure. And I mean, 15 to 20 yards away? Think if you're at a football game, how far 15 to 20 yards away? It's really not that far, but it's far enough where you might not be able to get the perfect details, meaning like if I saw Brady, from 15 to 20 yards away, I can see his number, and so you're not really going to get the greatest details, I guess, with the eyes and things. But it is interesting that right around that same time, you now have a couple claiming this occurred. The husband didn't get that good of a look at it because, like I said, he was tent with doing what else he was doing, and then all of a sudden this huge thing barreled by him and totally caught him off guard. But his wife, who had been witnessing it, definitely got a better look at it. But he said it definitely seemed like something black and large and shaggy bolting by him, whereas she actually got the good depiction of it.
Well, if they were already locking their doors at night, I bet they started locking their doors at night after this and making sure their windows were secured. I would hope.
Right. This all pre-folds now into what I've talked about before, but the 2007 incidents with the Martin family and Turner up on Madagascar Road. Then you have that couple and their friend that are out camping in 2007 near Rangeley, and they have the encounter with these things. Very bizarre. I mean, all throughout the history of Maine, predating some of the original Michigan Dogman encounters up here, people have talked about it. The majority of places, I guess you wouldn't have thought that, but now that I cover this topic, I'm like, wait a second, Maine's got a lot of interesting things about this. So yeah, I figured I definitely wanted to share that with you because you had sent me a screenshot of someone talking about the 2006 Turner Maine like werewolf incidents, and I was like, yo, I actually got some files on this I could talk to Jessica about.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, why are there so many dogmen sighted up there? I mean, if I remember correctly, somebody was in my chat one night during one of my live shows talking about is it Pennsylvania that has a dogman triangle or a werewolf triangle or something like that? New England has a lot of dogman sightings for whatever reason. And it really makes you wonder, like, what's going on up there? Why is there such a concentration? Why are so many people seeing them up there?
Old school, just New England's one of the first colonized areas, I believe, by more modern and Western civilizations started up here in the Northeast. I believe Boston is one of the oldest cities in the United States, right?
Yeah, it's, New England is where, the colonies were started, right? And there's just, but we don't know the history before all that too, before the colonization of the United States of America, was created. Okay, we don't know the true history. I talk about that all the time on my channel. It's like we really don't know the history. We've been told the history was one thing, but yet artifacts that have been dug up and things that have been found in cave systems, none of it lines up with the timelines and the history that we've been taught. The things that are in our history books, it's not what we've been taught. And there's been a massive cover up of things, even like giants that roamed the earth, giants that lived here in the U.S., and all the bones, the skeletons that the Smithsonian has come in allegedly and carted off and were never seen again. Tartarian Empire, ancient Egyptian settlements that have been covered up by man-made lakes. There's documentation of all of that. Even Viking settlements here. We've had, I'm talking about ancient Viking settlements and ancient Egyptian settlements in the Grand Canyon. Okay. And all over, even in Illinois and Ohio, caves have been found full of ancient Egyptian artifacts. So we don't know the true history of this land right here. Okay.
Oh, I love how you said that too, because recently Canada, there is a ton of evidence supporting that actually was the first people to come over to Canada massively long time ago. They found recent old school Chinese based documents and like pieces of like ships and things. It's so cool. You're like, wow. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, of course, there's going to be things that we can't wrap our head around. I mean, at the end of the day, like our geologist says, why are there hieroglyphics in the Grand Canyon? And why is the majority of that off limits to people? If the Egyptians weren't there, well, why is their artwork and such there? I mean, that pretty much tells you they were there. So why are we not supposed to know about that? Bizarre.
Because it changes everything. And once the sweater starts to unravel, okay, once the string has been pulled and the sweater starts to unravel a little bit, the whole sweater's about to fall apart.
Yeah, I used to hate that with the Abercrombie sweaters. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking. They really did do that though, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it would change everything, because it would, that would put religion and the things that we're taught and all the different religions would be questioned at that point. And it's all an information war. Okay, and we're in an information war right now. The main thing is is to stop the flow of information to the normal people, to the masses, and to change everything. I mean, we don't know what all we've been lied to about. I do a show every Thursday night where I'm given these blind coordinate remote viewing targets, and a lot of them have to do with cryptid sightings, and even hidden history and suspected events that happened in the past and stuff like that, and even just a lot of things that have been hidden from us and covered up, and so I'm able to kind of look into things like, the oldest statue in history was about a week or two ago. I'd done a remote viewing target on that, and it has ties to star people extraterrestrials and stuff. And we're told, like, I did a show last night actually on what's under the Great Pyramid of Giza, and all these reports have been coming out of scientists saying, well, there's structures underneath the Pyramid of Giza, like the Great Pyramid, that go 2 miles into the earth below the pyramid. It's 10 times bigger below the surface than it is on top of the surface of the earth. Like what you see the pyramid, like what you see of that is actually 10 times larger down below. Okay.
Yeah.
In the earth. And so things like that, and the people who are in charge of the information, let's just say the supreme leader of antiquities, or whatever his name is, whatever his title is over there in Egypt, he is very vocal about saying, no, this is all fake news. We've already, looked into all of this. This is fake. Well, that's not what the scientists are saying that have been exploring this and doing testing on it from satellites in outer space. Okay. And people that are boots on the ground. And so it's taking people like my teams, myself, boots on the ground researchers when it comes to the cryptid topics, us doing the research and getting, you getting these eyewitness reports and people giving reports about their encounters with cryptids and dogmen. We're the disclosure of all this. Okay. We are the disclosure. There are systems set up in place to keep all of this hidden from us. And so don't ever look for answers from Hollywood. Hollywood will leak it out. Okay. Hollywood puts it right in our faces. They leak it out, but it's all in humor and fun and science fiction. Okay. We'll go to the science fiction sections we don't have Blockbusters anymore. Where you go get movies. But look in the, at the library or wherever, go look in the science fiction section. And a lot of that is actually science fact. Okay. We just don't know it yet. Okay. We just haven't known it. Some of us know it, but anyways, yeah.
That is absolutely legendary. Great stuff again. Well, before we let you go, is there anything else you would like to touch base on tonight, my friend?
Man, I think we covered a lot of good stuff tonight. No, I think we're good. I mean, I really enjoy hearing about your local cryptids up there in Maine and in these Dogman reports. So thank you for sharing that with me tonight. And yeah, I mean, I would leave the show tonight telling everybody to please be safe out there, y'all. Please be safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel, but let's don't live in fear, because I think of all the sightings that we're getting, all the encounters, the reports we get, there's just a small percentage of any of these cryptids hurting people. Okay. Contrary to what you might see on YouTube, contrary to the titles of all these shows, of all these different channels and stuff. It's, we don't, I think it's disproportionate actually. I don't think the dogmen are out there really slashing people every day and stuff, but they could be. I don't know, but I personally don't think so.
Wow, such epic stuff. I do always appreciate you, my friend. Yes, to the audience though, make sure to go over and check out the link in the description. Make sure to keep on up with the Cryptid Huntress and what she's churning out. You can also check out our playlist down below and see what we've already covered and what we're going to be covering. Even though Jessica is absolutely pedal to the metal busy, she still comes over bi-weekly to hang out with us. Definitely make sure to go over and sub to her for sure and show that support back. Yet, until next time, this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society. It is the early hours of the morning, and if I do fear anything, it is the sunlight. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, Jessica.
Oh, thanks for letting me hang out.
Ooh, my creatures of the night, you legends, you. I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out tonight. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share the truth to the algorithm. We will catch you very soon.